Good morning everyone and welcome to the class. We are doing the chapter Freedom from your second book, that is Political Theory, and under the chapter we have discussed the importance of freedom, the meaning of freedom, then we have also discussed the source of constraints and why we need constraints, and after that we have discussed the meaning of Swaraj as interpreted by Mahatma Gandhi in his book Hind Swaraj, and in this regard we have seen that Swaraj is not simply rule of self. Actually it's rule over self, and it means that self rule does not mean that any kind of rule, any kind of arbitrariness can be there. Self rule, it means that we must be able to rule ourselves. We must be able to behave in a controlled manner. We must be able to behave in such a manner that it will lead to the upliftment of the whole society, not of only of the individual. So this was the idea of Swaraj, which was given by Mahatma Gandhi, and this Swaraj was the main theme of our freedom struggle. And then after that we have also discussed liberalism. We have seen that liberalism is associated with tolerance. When we accept the existence of those views and thoughts with which we are not agreeing, still we are considering it the right of all the people to hold their own view and to express that view. They are free to have their own view, they are free to express these views. So this is liberalism. It means that there should be acceptance to different thinking and views. And in modern time we see that liberalism is totally focused on individual. For a liberalist thinker, what is more important between an individual and society is individual, because they are of the opinion that everything should be done from the point of view of individual. And in the medieval period, when this concept of liberalism started to arise, at that time it was connected with the free economy. Liberalism means there should be no control of economy by the state. The economy should be free, the market should be free. But in today's time what we find that at present we are having the welfare state. The concept of welfare state is acceptable, and under welfare state the state is assigned so many functions, so many economic functions are also given to the state, because it is the welfare state. The purpose of the state is to do common welfare. So nowadays this concept of liberalism is also changing, and it is accepting that the state can have enhanced responsibilities and functions. Okay, and now we will see after that we have started our discussion of harm principle of J.S. Mill. And in this regard we have seen that J.S. Mill has expressed his views regarding liberty in his essay the name of the essay is On Liberty, and whatever views were expressed by J.S. Mill regarding liberty, this view is known as Hahn principle. And in the words of Mill, we have seen that it is, according to Mill, the only purpose for which the liberty or the freedom of a person can be controlled or can be curtailed is the protection of the people. If the functions and activities of a person is causing harm to the existence of other people, then only the activities of that person can be controlled. So this is called Hahn principle, and now we will discuss this Hahn principle in detail. Okay, so we are doing Hahn principle. Mill introduces here an important distinction. He distinguishes between self-regarding action, i.e. those actions that have consequences only for the individual actor and nobody else, and other regarding action, i.e. those actions that also have consequences for others. So first of all, what we find that Mill has divided the actions of a human being into two parts. Here are two types of actions. The first is self-regarding actions, and the second is others regarding actions. So these are the two actions. So what is the difference between self-regarding action and others regarding action? Self-regarding action are those actions which have consequences on the person who is doing the action. Okay, self-regarding means those actions which have consequences on the doer only, on the actor only. Whoever is doing the action, only he is affected by the action. So this is self-regarding action. And others regarding actions are those actions in which we find that the action of one person is affecting other persons also. So this is the difference between these two types of action. One is self-regarding, जिसका असर सिर्फ उसी पर पड़ता है जो उसको कर रहा है, and others regarding action जिसका असर उन लोगों पे भी पड़ता है जो कि उसको नहीं कर रहे हैं. ठीक है. So self-regarding action, those actions that have consequences only for the individual actor and nobody else, and other regarding actions, those actions that also have consequences for others. Now he argues that with respect to actions or choices that affect only oneself, self-regarding actions, the state or any other external authority has no business to interfere. So in this action, which is only self-regarding, which is affecting only the person, in this action there is no need of any kind of interference by the state or by any other external authority, because these actions are such actions which are affecting only the person who is doing the action. Other than that person, nobody is getting affected. So there is no need to interfere in these self-regarding actions. These actions should be free from any kind of external interference. Neither state nor any other authority should have the right to interfere in this self-regarding actions. Okay? Or put it in simple language, it would be, that is my business, I will do what I like. Or how does it concern you if it does not affect you? So many times you must have heard these kind of statement by people. If there is fighting or any kind of arguments are going on, so that is my business, I will do what I like. That's not your business, है ना? मुझे मेरा काम है, मुझे जैसे करना होगा मैं वैसे करूँगा, आपको इससे क्या मतलब? होता है ना इस तरह के arguments people give. Then how does it concern you if it does not affect you? If you are not getting affected by my actions, then why are you concerned about my actions? There is no need to concern about my actions, because my actions are not going to affect you in any way. So keep away, है ना? This is the theory given by this J.S. Mill. Okay. In contrast, with respect to actions that have consequences for others, actions which may cause harm to them, there is some case for external interference. So on the other hand, we are seeing that there are some actions which can affect others. Not only affect, it can affect in negative manner. It can harm them. If this kind of activity is done by an individual, then what we find, that this kind of activity can be controlled, can be curtailed by any external authority, because the action of a person is harming the other person or other people. So in this situation, there can be interference. Okay? After all, if your actions cause me harm, then surely I must be saved from such harm by some external authority, isn't it? If action of somebody is harming me, then I must be saved from your actions. I must be saved from the effect of your action, and in this process of saving me, there will be interference from external authority. In this case, it is the state which can constrain a person from acting in a way that cause harm to someone else. So if the action of a person is causing harm to someone else, then it is the state which need to interfere in that action. However, as freedom is at the core of human society, is so crucial for a dignified human life, it should only be constrained in special circumstances. What we find, that freedom is at the core of human society. We can't live a dignified life in the absence of freedom. We need freedom to live a dignified human life. So it is so much important for us that there should be interference only when some special circumstances are there. If special circumstances are not there, then there should not be any kind of interference. Because in that situation, if without any special circumstances the interference is done by the state, then that will lead to undignified human life, and it is our right to live a dignified human life. So freedom can be curtailed only in special circumstances. We cannot be forced to do something or not to do something by the state in an wrong manner. Only during the special circumstances it can be done by the state. The harm caused must be serious. Now, what is given by Mill, that if the action of one person is harming another person, then in that situation the action of the person can be curtailed or controlled by the state. Now the question is, what do you mean by harm? Harm का मतलब क्या है? कितना harm, कैसा harm, है ना? तो किस नुकसान की आप बात कर रहे हैं? So now Mill is saying that the harm which is causing because of the action of one person should be serious. ये नहीं कि किसी भी तरह के बहुत माइनर हार्म के बेसिस पे भी इंटरफेरेंस हो सकता है. द हार्म शुड बी सीरियस. For minor harm, Mill recommends only social disapproval and not the force of law. If suppose because of absence of one person some minor harm is caused, okay, so in that situation what is the way to tackle? In order to tackle such situation, what can be done according to Mill? If the harm is not very serious, in that case social disapproval should be done. The society should disapprove the actions of that person, and when the society will disapprove the actions of that person, then what will happen? He will be discouraged and he may stop doing that act. So in case of minor harms, social disapproval can be the best way. Instead of interfering in the activity of the individual by the state, there should be social disapproval. Suppose we see there is an example, okay. The playing of loud music in an apartment building should bring only social disapproval from the other residents of the building. Suppose a person is habituated to play loud music, okay, and because of this loud music, what is happening, that other people who are living in the same building are getting affected. Their life is getting affected. They are very disturbed because of this loud music. But this harm is not a serious harm. This will be considered as minor harm. So in order to tackle this situation, if we want that the person should play music at low volume, then what should be done? There should be social disapproval. Whatever he is doing, that should be disapproved by the community, okay. So how this social disapproval can be done? They can stop talking to the person. They can show their disrespect by doing any kind of thing, like they can stop greeting the person. So these are the ways of social disapproval. And if social approval is done, then there will be no need of use of force, because of this social disapproval he may start thinking ki why people are behaving in this way, what is the reason, and he may understand that because he plays loud music and it causes a lot of trouble for the people, so that's why people are behaving in this way. So he may change his action, and there will be no need of use of force. So this is minor harm. Okay. So we see that the playing of loud music in an apartment building should break only social disapproval from other residents of the building. They should not involve the police. In such matter, we cannot involve the police. They should indicate their disapproval of the inconvenience that playing loud music has caused them. So they must show their disapproval to the person that we are getting disturbed because of your playing of loud music, and we are showing disapproval to this act of yours. By perhaps refuse to greet the person who plays the music, disregarding the harm it is causing others. So in this way we can solve the problem. The harm that playing loud music causes is that of preventing those in other apartments from talking or sleeping or listening to their own music. So now Mill is describing in detail that if a person is playing loud music, so what kind of harm it is causing to other people in the building. So the problem is that other people may feel trouble in talking to each other because the music is so loud that they are not able to talk to each other, or the people may not be able to study. They want to study, but because of this loud music they are not able to study properly, or they are not able to sleep because of loud music. They are having disturbed sleeping, or it may also happen that they want to listen to their own music, but because of this loud music they are not able to listen to their music of their own choice. So this kind of harm is caused by playing a loud music. Okay, this is minor harm. All these harms, we are not able to sleep, we are not able to talk, we are not able to listen to our music of our own choice. These all are minor harms and should only provoke social disapproval. In order to solve this problem, what should be done? Only social disapproval should be there. It is not a fit case for legal punishment. We cannot think of punishing the person legally. We cannot think of using the force against the person who is playing loud music. Constraining actions by the force of law should only happen when the other regarding action causes serious harm to definite individual. In this case, when a person is playing loud music, the harm is caused to all the people. That is not targeted against a single person, isn't it? But there can be such actions in which we find that there is serious harm, and that too the harm is only to definite individuals. So in that case, in that situation, what is required? That there must be use of force. Constraint must be imposed on the activities of that person, because the activities of that person is causing harm, serious harm to some people who are around him. Otherwise, society must bear the inconvenience in the spirit of protecting freedom. So otherwise, if the harm is minor, then we have to understand that we all have freedom, and the person who is playing loud music, he is just exercising his freedom, and we cannot stop him by force. We can only disapprove this act of that person. Other than that, nothing can be done. So this is the others regarding action, in which the harm can be minor, the harm can be serious. In case of minor harm, there is only need of social disapproval, and in case of serious harm, there is need of force, constraint by the state is required. Okay. Now we will see some very hot questions are these, because these generate these are high order thinking skill questions, okay, which is given in the box on page number 27. Okay, the issue of dress code. If choosing what to wear is an expression of one's freedom, then how should we look at the following situation where there are restrictions on dress? So what we find that what we want to wear is our personal choice, it is our self regarding action. So there should not be any kind of constraint in the dress whatever we want to wear, but there are some situations are given in which people are forced to wear a uniform, a particular type of dress. So we will discuss that this situation is in harmony with the concept of freedom or not. So the first is, in China, during Mao's regime, all the people had to wear Mao suits based on the argument that it was an expression of equality. Okay. So what we find that this restriction which is imposed on the people's choice to wear, we find that this restriction is not justified, because in this restriction what we find that people, all the people are forced to wear Mao suits, who was the leader of the China. So everyone have to wear the Mao suits. And what was the argument behind this order that everyone should wear Mao suit? That it will bring equality, spirit of equality. We all are equal because we all are wearing same dress. But this is against the concept of liberty. This is against the idea of liberty. This is against the idea of freedom, because we cannot be forced to wear the dress what the state want. We are free to wear what we want, and in the name of equality this cannot be done. This is against the spirit of freedom. Now second is, a fatwa was issued against Sania Mirza for her style of dress that was considered by one cleric to be against the dress code prescribed for women. We all know Sania Mirza is one of the greatest tennis player, and she belonged to the Muslim community, and in this community we know that practice of parda is very prevalent, and people are very concerned about the dress, especially the women, what the dress is being worn by the women. And now we find what is happening, that Sania Mirza, she was a fatwa was issued against Sania Mirza. Why? Because of her style of dress, the dress she wore during the tennis match. Okay, so this was against the dress code which is prescribed for women in the Islam religion. This is totally wrong, because she is there to play the game. So if the audience are there, they are there to watch her performance, watch her skills of tennis. They are not there to watch her dress code. So if you are watching her dress and dress code, this is your fault. This is she is not there to wear dress according to the rules of the religion or anything like that. She is there to play the game, and you are there to watch her performance as a player. So this, if anything is wrong, that is, the wrong is not with Sania Mirza, but the wrong is with those people who are watching it through that kind of eyes. Now the third is the rules of a test match in cricket require every cricketer to wear white dress. Now every cricketer should wear white dress. Other than white dress they cannot wear any color. This is also not justified, because by wearing colorful dress there will not be any kind of difference in their performance. They will perform in the similar manner. There will be no difference in their level of performance. So by wearing colorful dress, it will not make any difference, and they must be free to wear colorful dress. Yes, it should be that for one team there should be one color, for other team there should be other color. It should not that in a single team the players should wear different colors. Then it will cause a kind of lack of uniformity will there. Uniform का purpose क्या होता है? Uniform, we are saying uniform means सबका एक जैसा होना चाहिए, ताकि हमें वो एक feeling of team spirit जो है वो आनी चाहिए. तो सभी वाइट पहने ये जरूरी नहीं है, बट एक टीम का एक कलर हो, जैसे कि अब होता है. पहले के जो क्रिकेट मैच होते थे इसमें ऑल द क्रिकेटर्स यूज टू वेयर वाइट ड्रेस, वाइट, अदर देन वाइट नो कलर वाज अलाउड. बट नाउ it has changed according to the spirit of liberty. It has changed, and now every team of every country is given a particular color. So this is justified. Okay, students are required to wear school uniform. This is also justified, because uniform it generates a kind of team spirit. We all are one, we all belong to one institution. It will generates the discipline also. So it is justified if all the students of a school are they are asked to wear uniform dress. Okay, so this is justified. Likewise, we will continue our discussion on the concept of freedom, and so many new things will come during the discussion, and we will we must enjoy this. Okay, so we will meet tomorrow.